everyone and welcome back to my workshop. I'm Diane Deziel and today I'm back with the same style. We're doing the panel skirt with the flare at the bottom, but I'm coming back to show you a different technique, much faster. The front is finished, now I'm showing you how to do the back from the block, so no plan. Now you take your block and we're going to trace right on the block the princess line. You're going to measure from the pivot to the center back, report the measurement at the bottom, then we'll connect the two dots, pivot to the bottom mark. Now you take your block, you place it on the paper in a way that you're sure that you have enough paper to have your seam allowance, your hem, and enough for the flare that we want to add. If you remember, I needed 10 centimeter plus the seam allowance. So I have enough all around my block. Now I'm going to put my weight right on the block and I'm going to trace around my block, but not all around. I'm going to trace from the princess line until the second side of the dart, and what I need to indicate is only the pivot of the dart. Now we'll remove the block. Then you could trace your princess line connecting the dot to the reference at the bottom. For the dart area, if you remember, we find the center, then we were going out 3 millimeter or 1/8 to be able to curve. Now for the grain line, you remember the princess line is completely parallel to the center back. So you could just put your ruler next to your princess line and trace a grain line parallel. Now we are ready to add the flare. We'll do it exactly the same way. So I'm adding on the side seam 10 centimeter. And I'll measure 10 centimeter on the princess line side. I'm going to start with the side seam flare and I'm going to do it just like I did on the front. So I'm going to measure from the hip notch all the way to the bottom. I'm going to hold it at the hip level and pivot my measurement until I touch the reference that I put for the flare. And I'm going to trace it until the measurement that I first find. Now for the princess line flare, I'm going to put it right at the pivot. Take the measurement, here I indicate it on my meter. I'm going to hold it at the pivot and then pivot the measurement until I reach the reference that I put for the width of the flare. I'm going to trace until the measurement that I found. Now to close that shape, I'm going to do just like I did for the front. I'm going to go square from the princess line here, trace for about 1 or 2 centimeter, and do the same thing with the side seam. Now you could close completely with a very light curve on both sides. Now you could cut all around. My side panel for the back is finished, but before doing my notches, I'm going to right away do my center back piece. For the center back piece, I'm going to trace from the first notch of the dart. I'm going to trace the waist, the center back, the bottom of the skirt until the princess line reference. And of course, I'm going to indicate my pivot. Now I'm going to connect the dots, so notch to the pivot and pivot to the bottom reference. Then we're going to curve the dart area. So find the middle from the waist to the pivot. And then in the middle, you go out about 3 millimeter or 1/8 of an inch. And we curve. If you remember, this center back piece is now on fold because we have a side opening. Then I'm going to trace my grain line parallel to my center back. Style number is 102. and this piece is going to be cut one time only because of the fold of the fabric, and of course it's cut in the main fabric. To add the flare at the bottom of this piece, I'm going to do just like I did for the 3 last pieces. I will measure at the bottom 10 centimeters. Then, just like for the other 3 pieces that we did, you're going to measure from the pivot all the way down to the reference. Then you're going to hold your ruler at the pivot. Pivot your ruler until the side touch the reference that you have at the bottom. Then we could trace until this measurement. Again, we're going to do a little bit of a 90 degree. Then we'll continue the line with the French curve. Now we put the seam allowance, the hem, 3 cm or 1 1/8 at the bottom, princess line and waist 1 centimeter. Now my 4 pattern pieces are finished. I just have to put the notches on my back piece. And I will start with the notch to indicate the 2 centimeter, the unusual seam allowance of 2 centimeter on the back side seam piece. I'm going to put it at the waist and at the bottom. Now the next notch, I'll put the side seam notch. And what I suggest is that you do it from your front side seam piece. You're going to flip it and put it side seam over side seam right next to the back pattern piece, just like that. And you're going to place your notches for the zipper, for the hip, and you have another one for the hem at the bottom. Before to continue with my notches, I'm going to ask you to cut the little corner, so fold on about 5 centimeters the hemline, just like that. Then cut what you have the excess. We do the same thing on the other side. Now the notch on the princess line, we're going to place one exactly at the pivot level and another one 1 centimeter down or 3/8 down. Then we place another pair of notch, so double notch, somewhere else on the princess line, but not centered. Now you're going to take both pieces, center back piece and side seam piece. You're going to place them back to back, just like that, princess line and princess line. Now I'm going to turn them and notch them in the same time. Make sure that your 2 pieces are even on top and at the bottom, and do your notch together. And when you do your notch, the 2 pieces together, don't forget the hem notch. Now this way you could imagine that there's no way you could do mistake. Your notch are going to match for sure, and if there's a mistake in the length, you're going to see it right away before cutting it in fabric. What we have left to do is fold the hem for the center piece on about 5 centimeters to remove the little angle. And the last thing to do with the center back piece, because it's on fold of the fabric, we're going to add a notch at 5 millimeters from the center back, or 3/16 of an inch if you're working with imperial measurement. That's it, the pattern is finished. That's it for today. I hope you enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I see you next time.